just imagine that you just got hired for a job that you were so excited for. And all of a sudden, the economy started to crash. And the company that you were hired for, their revenues cut in half overnight. And so they came to you and they said, we need to switch your job into sales because we need revenue. How would you feel? How would you feel about your job security? How would you feel about your future? Well, in 2008, this very thing happened to me. I was hired by a leadership training and development company to do organizational development training. And overnight, basically, they said, we need you to sell. Think about your confidence being able to go out and pay your bills, selling a product that is the first thing that people cut during a recession, training and leadership training and development. I quickly had to figure out how could I grow my client list, because it was not a good time to go find another job. And I quickly learned the value of a strong personal brand. I had to think of ways, like I said, that I could grow my business. And one of the things that I decided to do was start speaking professionally. I started working with a coach, and within a few months, I had been published in a book, and I had my first client. I was asked to speak to a military organization at a black tie event for 400 people. They were in their military regalia and gowns and tuxedos and ties. And I had 20 minutes, no slides, no notes, in front of the room, all the lights on me, my very first time. And they paid us quite a bit. How would you feel about that? I was so excited. That launched my speaking career. But strengthening your brand and communicating with power and influence is so much more than keynote speaking. It's about having difficult conversations. It's about applying for a job and doing well in a job interview. It's about negotiating a raise. It's about pitching a business idea to potential investors. It's about having a disagreement. It's about closing a deal. It's about training your team or coaching people on your team. It's about asking for help. It's about asking for referrals. It's about speaking up for yourself or on behalf of someone else, whether that's in front of 2 people or 2,000. So today, when we talk about strengthening your brand, we're going to really focus on how do you communicate with power and influence. And that's what we get to focus on for the next 85 minutes. So we're going to have a couple of things that we talk about. This is the agenda. We're going to start off with what is a brand. We're going to talk about why this matters. And then we're going to talk about how do we strengthen your brand. So first question I have for you, and if you got the link, and these questions, I actually have answers from your team that came up earlier on Monday, or was it Tuesday? It was Tuesday. I'd like for you to go to the URL called pollev.com/Spencer Horn 294. And I want you to chime in and say, what is a brand? And this is what others, while you're doing that, I'll read some of those. A brand is an identity. It's the way you identify yourself, what you're known for. It's a unique identity. It's an identity. It's how the world sees you. It's the values that you're known for. So the rest of you, I want you to pull up your cell phones or whatever, because I have a couple of questions that we're going to do throughout today that I want your input on. It's the way people see you. It's a name or symbol that identifies someone's product or service. It's your identity card, the representation of who you are, the story you transport. Well, that's an interesting comment. And that was just from a minute ago. Yes, it's what people think of when they see me or my name. Absolutely. Well done. Great comments. It's your reputation. Love that. So I agree with all of what you're saying, because a brand is similar to the word trademark, right? Simply put, your brand is what anyone thinks of when he or she hears your brand name. And let's put that to the test. Before I do that, I want to read some of what others you are saying. What I stand for, what I believe in, yes. What you stand for represents to, that's interesting. What do you mean by represent to? Something that could have long-term impact, positive or negative. Absolutely. So what are some, the next question is what are some brands that you're familiar with? What are some famous brands? And this is the list that was already added to last time. So go ahead and put in yours and it will continue to grow. I was late to unmute myself. It's okay, Maylin, you can still speak up. I'll listen. What do you, go ahead and answer whatever you were going to say.
You already answered what you the brand is what you represented to. So
yeah,
that's you already answered. So
and that's okay. You know, sometimes people don't speak up because somebody else said what they were going to say. If that's your opinion, then share it. It's wonderful. Thank you so much, Maylin. So here's what you guys are coming up with. Oh my gosh, what is that? Mandar CPA. That's what it is. Kendra. That's last time, I guess it's jewelry, right? We have Microsoft, we have Disney, we have Federer, we got some PMIs pretty big. Look at that, Apple and Nike. Yeah, these are some great brands, and you guys are putting those in. It's changing. And here, I want you to think of, what do you think of when I say Google? I mean, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Innovation.
Innovation. Excellent. What else?
Search engine.
Yeah, Daniel says technology and searching. What about Amazon? If you hear the word Amazon, what do you think of?
shopping.
Yeah, convenient. Happiness, right? The little smile. Great. And so somebody last time was saying, for example, a brand can actually replace what we say for words. Like instead of saying tissue, we say Kleenex, in this country anyway. When you're sending something overnight, maybe you say FedEx it. Well, a brand can be so powerful. There's so many benefits. Look, Apple. It doesn't matter if you're an Apple fan or not. That's not what's important. But it's a brand that they've created over the decades that is so strong that when an Apple store comes into a retail location, it increases traffic by 20%. And what they've done is so powerful that it's been copied by Microsoft and everybody else. You, just like all of these big brands, you have a brand. And one of the things people who use Apple love is the experience. When you go into that store, they treat you well. I mean, you have to go in and make an appointment. They take care of you. They focus on you. Their customer service people are amazing. They train for 1 month before they even have the opportunity to interact with customers. It is the experience. And every time you have a conversation, and every time you have an email, or anytime you send a text, you are creating an experience with other people. So I consult with lots of my clients on how to hire people. And one of the things that we do is we look at their social media, we look at their personality, because we want to know if they're a good fit. Their brand matches with what the culture of the company is. And we want to know if that brand that they're selling us is the same with what they're putting out there on social media. And if you don't think that's happening at your job interviews, there are companies that all they do is they use artificial intelligence to verify you are who you say you are. When you have interviews, they're looking at your face on camera. Are you looking at the camera? Are you trustworthy? And they can tell instantly if you're somebody that's hiding something or you're telling the truth. And there's entire companies that like P&G or Johnson & Johnson and major companies are using to hire their employees today. Maybe you've had the opportunity to be hired by some robot, right? It's happening. So your personal brand is showing up whether we want it to or not. And you have the ability to choose how you represent yourself rather than letting it happen accidentally. Be intentional. So I want to talk to you about this idea called personal branding. If you turn to your workbook on page 3, There is a definition. I'd like somebody to read what the definition of a personal branding is.
The first line?
The two paragraphs. Go ahead.
Personal branding is the conscious and intentional effort to create and influence public perception of an individual by positioning them as an authority in their industry, elevating their credibility and differentiating themselves from the competition to ultimately advance their career, increase their circle of influence, and have a larger impact. The process of personal branding involves finding your uniqueness, building a reputation on the thing you want to be known for, and then allowing yourself to be known for them. Ultimately, the goal is to create something that conveys a message and that can be monetized.
Sylvia, well done. That's hopefully you feel like that's of value to you, because think about if you go above what's a brand, your reputation is about how your customers, suppliers, coworkers perceive you or your company. It's your reputation, and it resides in their minds, and you can't always control what they think about you, but you can control how you behave and how you interact with them. And there's great positive benefits and possibly negative benefits if you're not careful. So you are your brand, and you get to decide how you're going to differentiate yourself and how you're going to help people remember you so that they can connect with you, because people want to connect with their favorite brands. They do on social media, and social media is so powerful. Think about the ways that you can interact with your customers. So often people are out there pushing themselves on others, and they're pushing their ideas. Hey, do you want this or do you want that? That's not a great positive brand. And I have a question for you. Why do you think people resist personal branding? Why do they resist taking the time to strengthen their own personal brand? What is it? What do you think?
Oh, it's hard. It's not easy. It's not something we're used to doing.
So it's true, but we're not used to it. It sounds like there's a lot of benefits, though, right, Duncan? So why not?
Because they do.
Go ahead.
Okay, because they do not understand at the moment the impact it will make and the benefits a person will gather out of it.
Okay.
So it's not the realization of the benefits.
I love that. And Maya already says there's no easy formula or process, since it's unique to everyone, is what I assume you're saying there. Yes. Okay. Thank you. What other reasons do you think people might resist personal branding?
I think to add to what Shivani was saying, first of all, hi Shivani, but I think it's the risk. People don't want to take the risk to take the plunge. You know,
what do you think is to risk, Meyer? Tell us more.
You may be wrong. You may not get whatever you actually were intending to reach for.
Okay.
And fear of failure or unacceptance.
Great comments. Anybody else?
I would add,
sorry.
oh, I would add that maybe people, and this kind of like goes along with what has been said, but maybe people are afraid to show themselves.
Yeah.
You know about that imposter syndrome?
Absolutely.
They just don't want to, they're afraid to show what they are or who they are. So
Thank
people
you,
don't
Rosanna. Yes.
accept it or something.
Yes,
I am with Rosanna. Maybe it's a type of a behavior. People might be shy to be in the spotlight, to act like that. So maybe there are some blockers that people need to remove, right, to behave accordingly, right? So
yes,
lack of confidence, as well as they feel like people will judge if they do something or they present something or they talk like this or that. So
those are all great comments, you guys, and I agree with everything that you've said. And here are a couple of other reasons why I think people do that. And They're concerned about their image. Isn't that, it's ironic, right? We're talking about strengthening our image, but we're concerned about it. And I'll give you an example. I was networking in Las Vegas at an event that a friend of mine had invited me to. This was several years ago, and it's called the Mandalay Bay, very nice hotel, very top, the House of Blues Foundation. And it's at the top of this 30-story hotel. Beautiful place with balconies, and we're meeting people. And I'm not a huge fan of networking, but it's important to do. But my friend who was hosting it and was the sponsor had an opportunity to talk about her company, and it was a bank. And I remember everyone is supposed to stop and listen to the sponsor. That's how you pay for the event. And I was sitting on a couch next to another friend listening, and a guy in this big long trench coat walks up in front of me, so I can't see the speaker. I have to kind of look around him, right? And he's, hey, here's my card. If you ever need a lawyer or attorney, call me. You think I'm ever going to call that guy? I mean, he doesn't even know if I need an attorney, and he's selling me. Plus, he's interrupting my friend who's speaking, who I want to listen to. Very rude. That makes me think of somebody I absolutely do not want to do business with. And so sometimes the backfiring is that, we do it wrong, and we think we have to push ourselves on others. You do not. So other times we're not clear about what it is we want. What is our brand? What do we stand for? What is important to us? What are we going to represent? And so that lack of clarity is challenging, because the brain has to have a target to go shoot for. And if it doesn't have one, it's going to be muddled, and you're going to be like confused, and where do I go and how do I approach it? But as soon as you get clear about what it is where you want to go, the brain automatically kicks in and starts to solve the problem. It will answer whatever question you put in front of it, and it focuses on whatever you tell it to. And I'm going to give you an example of that right now. I want you guys to close your eyes right now, and whatever you do, don't picture a red bicycle. Just don't. What did you see? Did you see nothing?
Spencer telling me not to think of a red bicycle.
Really, the brain doesn't understand don't. It does whatever you tell it to. So if you're right, and if you're like, I'm confused, I don't know what I want to do, then that's what you're going to be focused on, is that confusion. But as soon as you start to get clear on what you represent and what you're focused on, it goes out. And when you get clear on it, it's so much easier to start that branding. We're not sure where to start. There's so much information out there that it can be confusing. It can be difficult. And so that's a challenge that we often have. Lastly, we're not sure. Well, there's two more I want to share with you. We're not sure who we want to work with. So often we think, what company do I want to have a job with? Or if I work for myself, what kinds of clients do I want to work with? If I'm a consultant, or sometimes we want to work with everybody, but that takes our energy, because if I have to work with everybody, I don't get to work with people I really want to work with. You have to decide who it is you want to work with, and what gives you that energy. And that will help actually reinforce your brand. Now, I have one more thing I want to talk about before we do a little exercise on page 4. Part of your brand is your reputation. And I want you to just go through an exercise and measure your reputation. Right now, I want you to ask yourself the following questions and answer them to yourself. You don't have to share that with anybody else. And that is, do people listen to you when you speak? Do you ever say, why don't people listen to me? Do you get people to take action? Or do they struggle when you ask them to do that? Or that nothing happens? Number 2, do they take you seriously? Do they worry, or maybe they don't worry, when you make a commitment or a promise? How about this one? Are your services in demand? And that doesn't mean you're working for yourself. It means, do people outside of your department, do they come to you for questions? Hey, could you help me with this? Even if it's not part of what you do. And if you are somebody that works for yourself, do your customers call you when they have other problems just because they trust you and they want to work with you? That's an example of measuring, are you and your services in demand? And of course, if they're asking for you to do work with them, do they want to invest with you? Do they buy your ideas? And that's what I mean by invest. And it's more than just, putting money down, but it is, when you have an idea, do they listen? Do they, if someone is recruiting them, do they come to you and say, hey, we want you to stay, and do they work to keep you here, right? Do they want to work with you? If you were a stock, would your value be rising? Do you have high or low turnover at your organization? And what I mean by stock is that over your lifetime, is your earnings going up? Now, there are times when you have to take a step back. Like, remember I told you I started selling on 100% commission? Well, they started me here, but then I had to go back here. Now, eventually I became the CEO of that company and made a lot more. But sometimes we have to go backwards to go forward. But over time, is that trend rising? That's a measure of your reputation and of your brand. When you make a mistake, what happens? Do people give you the benefit of the doubt? Or are you punished? Let me give you an example of that. One of my clients that I coach and work with, there's a director level person in the company. And he is so hardworking, so dedicated, very meticulous, very demanding. And the executive team of his peers, at one point, when he made a mistake, they wanted him fired because they were so sick and tired of working with him and just how hard it was to work with this individual, regardless of all the years, 16 years he'd been with this organization. And we had to work very hard to help him keep that job. We had to work on his reputation and the impact that he was having. So I want you to think about these and how you're doing in these areas. You don't have to answer, this is for you. But what I'd like for you to do now is I'd like you to think about, what is it that you are doing that maybe you need to stop doing? What do you need to do differently? The future is going to belong to the people who are able to adapt and adjust. And I love this saying by Alvin Toffler. The illiterate of the future aren't those that can't read and write. It's the ones that can't learn and unlearn and relearn. So I want you to do this now on page 4. What are 2 things about your brand that you want to improve? Who would like to share what are 2 things that they want to work on with their brand?
I can.
And I can.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry.
Okay, so I think that Sylvia raised her hand. Go ahead, Sylvia.
First of all, I would like to know the one, do you have low or a high but which is that one?
Do you have low or high turnover? That's a question for like your company, right? What's the company's brand? I mean, do people want to work in your department? Do they want to work in your company? Some managers within companies have a lot of turnover, and the excuse is, well, they're not willing to do the work, right? Or is there a culture where people want to work for some people? They just like, I'll take less money. I want to work with Linda, right? That's what I'm talking about.
That's a good one. Okay, I would like to improve. As I was filling up everything, and let's say most is positive, then my issue is myself. I need to improve my self-confidence.
Self-confidence. Excellent.
Yes, because the questions are positive, but I don't believe in myself. People say, you do a great job, you do everything okay, I do gain the benefit of the doubt perfectly, but I don't think I'm doing that great. So the issue is me.
Excellent.
And second, influence.
Self-confidence and influence. All right. Who's next?
Okay, let me go next. So I want to improve my speaking skills, and of course I am learning it how to speak. I know how to speak, but how to make my speech or my speak impactful and effective. For that, one more thing I need to do is reading more books and reading stuff, so that I I will not run out of words or scenarios or examples, and it can be more relative to what I'm talking about, and talking to the audience.
Thank you. Excellent. Who's next?
I can.
Go ahead, and then Maylin will do one more after that. Go ahead, Marco.
Okay, so I would like to improve how I communicate on the social medias, right? And also to improve my influence skills.
So before we go on, could I ask you, what do you mean improve how I communicate on social media? What do you mean by that?
Just because I don't know how to start doing that in a proper way, right? It's there is any technique that I needed to follow, how to structure, so how it works. So it's something that I really would like to improve, even to improve my brand, my reputation in terms of exposing what I know, exposing all that type of things.
So excellent. Thank you so much. And why that's important is because you want to strengthen your brand and share what you know and have other people, right? Okay. Last, Maylin, go ahead. What would you like to do?
I want to improve my political correctness because sometimes everything is black and white to me, and sometimes that is I have one direction mind. Then I need to be a panda. So I have a black and white and white and black. I want to be a better storyteller. A lot of time I have a good idea, great passion, but I need to be powerful to talk about the story and what I have in mind in words.
That's great, you guys. I am going to close all my bunch of stuff. Ooh, hold on. So I can maybe get myself in sync here. I want to answer some of these questions, and this is something that we didn't do last time, but I'm going to start with you, Sylvia. And just one suggestion when it comes to self-confidence. Every week on Friday, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to look back on the week you just experienced and write down everything you accomplished. It's a journal of basically all of your effort and all of your accomplishments. And I want you to look at that every week and see everything that it is you're doing and start to believe. And you know what? There's a lot more that we need to unpack there we can't do here, but that is understanding where that's coming from. But there are some techniques that you can do, and this is one simple way that you can start to gain a little more confidence, is to understand how much you are accomplishing. Nagendra, I know I'm out of sync. I apologize for that. If you want me to turn my face off, I can do that. There we go. So sometimes you just got to deal with it, and technology, right?
Yeah.
Nagendra, you know what's the answer? You can read lots of books. You can get all the information you need on how to be a great speaker, but until you actually start speaking and figure out what works, you're not going to know. I mean, one of the things that I like to do is actually experiment when I'm speaking, right? I'll throw in something that I've never done before. 90% I keep of what I know, but maybe 10% I throw an experiment, and sometimes it'll just bomb. And I'm like, okay, note to self, that doesn't work. And then on another time, I say something and people start writing it down, like, oh my gosh, I gotta put that in every speech. But what happens is that we are getting ready to get ready. We're professional preparers, right? A lot of project managers are so focused on perfection, on having the system, on having all the knowledge, that they never get started. Just start. And you're going to mess up, right? You're going to fail. It's okay to make first mistakes. Marco, same thing applies in social media. If you have a concept or an idea and you share it out there and you get people that interact with that, that's great. My suggestion then is you don't just, if someone interacts with something that you say, how should you respond? Should you say, hey, do you want to learn more?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. Well, it's like, let me put it a different way. What if we go on a first date and I see you and I'm like, wow, you're cute, let's go. Is that appropriate, do you think? And you're like, well, first of all, that's not appropriate ever, right?
No, for sure, yeah.
So what would you do? Hey, gosh, you're nice, that was fun. Would you like to have a cup of coffee?
Yeah.
Well, that's what you do next. So an interaction might go like this. Somebody says to you, well, that's, I love this. You go, great. So how have you applied this in your life?
I see.
And someone says, well, I had this experience. I go, great. What was the outcome? So now you've got like a couple of back and forths, right? What was the outcome of when you applied that in your life? So now you're having a conversation, and what do you want them to do next from that conversation?
Well, to keep providing me the feedback as well, in order for us to continue the conversation, right? And I would also like to extract something to myself as well.
So then what you want to do is you want to ask something, and it can be as simple as, I don't know if this is something that you would be interested in, but would you mind giving me feedback on when you see my posts on whether or not you like what I'm sharing?
Yep.
Would you mind, or would you be willing to just interact with some of the things I post on here and give me feedback? And what will happen is you start to connect with somebody at a deeper level. And now the social media is not to go push and sell. It's kind of like that guy who wanted to give me that card, right?
Yep.
You don't give that card right away unless you know that I want it. But as soon as somebody is interested, I might ask, so tell me more about why you're curious about this topic. And they say, well, we're having a problem at work. I said, well, would you be open to having a conversation and telling me a little bit more about that? Now you schedule a phone call. That's what you want to have happen. But that may have taken 3, 4, 5, 6 back and forths of short little conversations. That's what social media is supposed to do. This is what networking is supposed to do. You guys have had this experience of getting to know each other over a long period of time. There's tremendous trust. How do you go out and build your brand in a world where you can't be face to face? Social media is a great way to do it. Is this helpful?
Totally.
Maylin, you and I talked a little bit about your profile. You have high dominance. You are naturally just, somebody sends you an email, you're probably like, yes, no, do this, right? You're very direct. And that's one of the things that makes you brilliant. However, political correctness, it's like, I have a similar personality. Sylvia, I got your email about the link, right? And I immediately responded like, here it is. I'm like, there's my directness again. I had to go back and edit my email and say, how was your weekend? And you got this great email back to me like, oh, we had this Italian thing and all, we had a great little interaction, right? But I was just like, oh, here it is. Because that's very transactional. That's my natural tendency. I have to interrupt that natural style and say, you know what? I need to connect with people and stop and have a conversation. But it takes effort. And one of the ways that I do that is I do daily questions. I have behaviors that I work on. So for example, you want to be more politically correct. I'd really get clear on what that looks like. What does it mean? Are you more engaging? Are you more listening? Are you less direct, right? So if you're less direct, you're more open and more allowing, or whatever it is. But you want to focus on the positive. It's kind of like that I said, don't focus on a red bicycle. That's what you got. Instead of saying, not be this way, I want you to say what you want to be like. And then what you do is you evaluate yourself every day. How engaging was I? How open was I today? On a scale from 1 to 10. And if you were terrible, put it down. I was a 3 today. I was really direct. My husband with this person on the phone. But don't beat yourself up over it. Just be curious. Wonder why I was so direct today. Well, I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. You'll start putting focus on the behavior that you want. And at the end of the week, average your score. So it was a 6, right? Your goal is to get that over a month to start coming up until you get to an 8 or a 9 or wherever you want to be. But just focus on 1 or 2 behaviors, that's all. Because if you focus on too many things, the brain gets overloaded and it's very difficult. I don't know if this is helpful, it's a little, but I want you to understand these are things that you can start to improve, to measure it and help your reputation. All right, now let's get into the next thing, and that is, what is your story, right? And it starts with your elevator speech. And we're gonna do this, you got 2, actually I'm gonna give you 1 minute. And the question I'm asking you is, what do you do? All right, so when you have an elevator speech, this is what your name is, what do you do, and 3 strengths that you bring to the organization or to whatever it is that you do. So for example, my name is Spencer Horn. I'm the president of Altium Leadership. I am a team performance authority and an executive coach. And my strengths are being able to see very quickly the challenges in an organization. I am constantly learning and growing so I can bring the best solutions to my clients. And I am someone who has the ability to help people get comfortable getting uncomfortable. Those are my strengths. And you got 15 seconds. So you're only going to take 15 seconds. We're going to put you into groups. But so right now, I want you to take 1 minute. I want you to write your elevator story. Elevator speech, not story. All right. So you've got about 30 seconds. I'm going fast, I know. Let's see, we got 1, 2, 3. Okay, so let's go forward. Okay. All right, who needs more time? It's okay to raise your hand. Well, you're not going to get it. Here we go. I'm putting you in the breakout rooms, and as soon as you get in the breakout room, I want you to share go around the room and everybody share theirs with each other. Here we go. You got about 1 minute. All right. So what was that like for you? What did you experience?
Difficult.
What was difficult, Marco? You did a good job, but what did you feel that was difficult?
Yeah. No, it's we need to be very precise. We need to be crisp, and in the same time pass all the information, highlighting your strengths, right?
Okay.
But it's difficult to consolidate everything in a very, very short time.
Excellent. Thank you for that comment. What else? What else did you experience?
Well, actually, I gotta say that at first I wrote my 3 first words of what I am skilled at, and then everything else it had to come from my mind quickly. Let's say difficult, but it came up.
How many of you, just by a raise of hand, that was a little awkward? Okay. I want you to think about why it's awkward. You know, so often we think that when we have a conversation or we speak, that we should just speak from the heart, right? Think about giving a keynote or a presentation or a board meeting or a PDD meeting or something that you're leading. If you just get up there and speak from the heart, what's going to happen? It's not going to go well. In order to connect with people, to speak from the heart, you actually have to practice it. If you have an elevator speech, what do you stand for? What are your strengths? What do you do? Do you have to be crisp and precise? You're on an elevator and there's the CEO, and all of a sudden you say, this is what I am. I am a team performance authority. I quickly understand the problems of our organization. Do you do that? You just, you know what it is so that you can actually connect and relate to people. What do you do? Well, I'm a team performance expert. Well, what does that mean? Notice I only said 15 seconds. Why did I say 15 seconds, do you think? Hey, you're cute. I really want to go out with you. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm 6'7", have 13 sets of ribs, 24 vertebrae. And you know what else? I am really good at what I do. And you know what? I'm really fun on a date. Would you like to go out with me? And hey, by the way, we fire hose people, don't we? I'm a team performance expert.
Tell me more about
Well, you want to know more about that? Why are you interested? I mean, what would you like to know? What are you interested in?
Yeah. Well, why do you say that you're a team performance expert?
Because for me, the work that gets done in any organization gets done through teams. And the organizations that are most successful are the ones that get teams to produce at a high level sustainably. Anybody can do it for a short period of time, a month, but how do you get them to perform again and again? Well, how do you do that? Well, that's a great question. You see what I'm saying? What am I doing?
You're adding the cookie crumbs.
Stop being pushy, start being pulley. And how do you do that? Create some curiosity. But the reason why I want you to have the elevator speech is so that you have something to draw on. And it's just 15 seconds. You know, here's what I do. And so I want you to get to what your story is next. That's what we're going to focus on now. Oops, the slide gets to be fixed here. So what are you skilled at? On page 5, what are you skilled at? Where can you help the most? And basically what I'm asking you is, what do you know that others will pay you for? Even if you have a job, right? What are they paying you for? What do you know that your company or your clients are paying you for? Where can you help the most? Do you have a track record of developing products, corporate structuring, startup, or turnarounds? What is it that you've done? And, you know, don't just say, well, I manage this many people. What did you think about the whole process of Agile, right? What do you do at the end of a sprint? You show what you've done, right? What is it that you accomplished? What have you created? What was different because of you? That's part of your story. What are you most interested in doing? So what I'd like to do now is, if there's a volunteer that would like to kind of work on this right now, can I get a hand? Somebody like to work on their story just a little bit? Okay, no. Nobody wants to go on the hot seat.
I'll do it.
Rosanna?
Or Lydia, you're good.
No, you can go. I was just thinking my background is kind of funky and sideways of the majority of us, so I wanted to let other people go. But if we need someone, I'm happy to do it. But Rosanna would be good.
Rosanna.
I'm just throwing myself out there.
So
I love you though.
Talk to us. What is it that you do that you think people would pay money for? What are you skilled at?
I'm skilled at, I probably had good people skills. I can normally talk to pretty much anybody. So it's easy for me, kind of like what you were telling Marco, that you kind of like create a conversation or like what May was saying that you are kind of dry sometimes. I'm normally not so dry, and I kind of like create that environment that is normally people like me or look for me because I'm easy to work with, and people normally they like if I'm leaving a team, they are like, oh, I will miss you, or we want to work with you, we want to do things with you.
So how do you mean you're easy to work with?
Easy to work with, open, only open, approachable. I'm a people person, so
Okay, so hold on a second. What is important about being open and approachable? What's important about that?
it's important because you can kind of like what you said, that in order for you to get results, you need to work with people. So if I'm not like that, it will be hard for somebody to work with me and for me to work with others. So I think that's why it's important.
Okay. And where have you actually experienced or had success with working with a team of different people that you had a great result?
Working with projects, the different projects that I work with, or even with PMI, with my chapter, even though I have some challenges in there too, but normally most people I can work with.
So give me an example of where you made a difference in how the team worked because you were so approachable and open.
Let's say an example, my previous project that I was managing, I needed to put governance or tools together, so I have to train people, and I was able to, I wasn't overcomplicating things. I was putting things at their level where maybe they didn't have project manager skills as I did. So I tried to put things simple and to go slower if I needed to. So kind of like work at their pace instead of mine. I mean, a little bit of mine, but kind of like work at their pace.
So here's what I'm hearing. Rosanna, your skills are the ability, because of your experience, to work in teams that are cross-functional with people with all different backgrounds and connect with them in a way that they feel comfortable and that they can approach me with their concerns, and that I can help resolve some of those concerns. And as a result, the team works together at a much higher level. I help work help break down the project into a way that everybody can understand what their role is and they can move forward. I connect people to the project.
Yeah, sounds good.
Is that what you do?
Yeah, or at least I try to.
Do you do it, or do you try to do it?
I
try to stand up right now. Will you just try to stand up?
Now?
Try to stand up.
From my chair, you mean?
Try to stand up from your chair, sure.
Okay. We'll see.
Did you try, or did you do it?
I did it.
You did it. That's exactly what you do. Stop trying, or stop saying you're trying. This is what I do. I am a person that is able to bring different teams together to work at a higher level because I am a connector. That's your story. Those are your strengths. Do you see that?
Yeah.
But what happens is because we're not clear on what we're good at, we walk and talk around in circles, and everybody's confused at what we really do because we're confused.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
But it just takes a little bit of time to start asking yourself some questions. That's why, I want to do this. Part of your brand is being able to be clear about the value that you bring to an organization. There's so many benefits from effective communication. One of those is, is confidence and satisfaction in the work that you do. And you know what? There's so much to this speaking with power and communication and effectiveness and brand strength that's not about speaking. It's just about what we do every single day. Now, let's talk about some of the challenges that we have today in the virtual world. How do you show up virtually? And there's a term that I've coined here. It's called virtual aesthetics. How do you show up virtually? And the first thing I want you to do is I want you to practice your technology. Listen, things are going to go wrong. If you're making a presentation or a proposal, there's going to be lag time. There's going to be microphones that go out. There's going to be, you guys don't even know this, but my camera stopped working while you were in the breakout rooms. I had to unplug stuff and get it back in. I'm doing all kinds of things here behind the scenes, and you know, you got to read the comments. You've got to, if you're just learning your technology, part of your brand is going to show up as somebody that's not competent. So get very comfortable by practicing. The same is true of speaking. You want to be comfortable enough that when you stand up, you don't even have to think about what it is you're going to say, because you can focus on connecting with your audience. And you can connect with people online. One of the things you want to do is make sure that your body language is good, and body language, even virtually, matters. So a couple of things that we get to focus on when it comes to body language is look at the camera. You know, don't be looking down at your screen, because look at the camera like they're the audience. The audience sits behind the camera. Look how you're positioned. You know, are you positioned like this? Are you way back here like this? It takes away from your power and authority, doesn't it? Can you guys hear me okay? Mm-hmm. You want to be, look where your eyes are. They should be in the top 1/3 of the screen or above. 1, 2, and then 3. It gives you, even if the top of your head is cut off, it gives you more authority, and that's important when you're connecting with people. So body language is important, and it comes through. Watch what others who are good are doing. Think about your tone. Empathy. How do you demonstrate empathy, do you think?
Listening and being warm.
Okay, let me ask it a different way. I've just been teaching you about your elevator speech, right? How can you have empathy when you're developing, when you're presenting your elevator speech? How could that person, when I was networking, who came up to me and handed me their card, how could they have had empathy for me?
I could ask how you were doing, or yeah, they could have asked that.
Ask for permission.
Yeah, or they could have noticed that I was really paying attention and not talk to me at that moment. Right? Sometimes, you know, I want you to be able to have the elevator speech, but you also have to know when is the right time. And that person then could say, afterwards, I say, wow, looks like you were really listening to Monica, that presenter. Do you know her? Absolutely. She's my friend. And that's why I'm here tonight. Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Well, that's great. Tell me a little bit about what you do. Well, I have my own business called Altium Leadership. That's amazing. Do you, you know, what are some of the challenges that you get? I mean, have you been in business long? Well, I've been in business about, you know, at that time was a couple of years. And what are the challenges? I mean, how's that going? And empathy is interest in the other person and their needs. And then finding out, have you ever had a situation where, you know, a client, you had litigation or a problem with the client not paying or whatever? No, I haven't had that yet. Or yes, I have. Really, do you have someone that represents you that helped you deal with that? Or did you have to do that on your own? Well, I had to do that on your own. Wow. Would you be open to considering having someone help you with that next time so it's a little easier? Well, I might be. Who's asking? Well, I am. Do you see how you can have empathy? And that could come through even when you're presenting, in your tone, in your interest. That's part of your brand. It's part of your body language, all of that. Make sure you have proper lighting. I don't know if you've noticed, my overhead light is not on. I have a ring light, but it's not directly on me. It's bouncing off the wall. And then I have all these other lights. I have a light over my shoulder. I don't know if you noticed that. Do you see the light on my shoulder right here? And if I'm down low, it creates a little glow on my head. Isn't that cool when I'm low? Because you want to have lighting. Now look at your lighting. If you have a window behind you, it's making everything dark. Close it out. If you look at my other camera here, let me see if I can get it to show up. So you see my window? If I open this up, it will change. I have it all closed, but it will change the lighting significantly. So I close out all ambient light because I want you to be able to see my face. So look at your lighting. The other thing is sound. You know what? You have to have good sound. I have several microphones. Here's my other microphone. Here's my main microphone that I'm using. It's not my laptop, but the one that I'm using, this one right here, is a $12 lapel mic. And when I walk away, you guys should be able to still hear me. Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have a long cable and I'm walking away. I don't have a headset on, but you can still hear me. Sound virtually is so important. It's why, you know, last time it wasn't as good. And so I asked Linda to make sure that we were good this time. And I want you guys to tell me if it goes out, because sometimes it does. So part of your virtual aesthetics are, how are you showing up? How do you sound? How do you look? People need to see your beautiful faces. Now, the other thing that I am a strong proponent of is, so here's the lighting and position. Look at how that person is. Still, eyes are at the top 1/3 of the screen. That's how they make movies. It's just so much more powerful when you have that. I like to be close because I'm talking right to you. I want to have a conversation. But what is the experience people have with you online? It is about an experience. It's about connecting with you. You guys, I am so grateful to be with you. You have an opportunity to influence people and make their lives better with the information that you share with now more than ever, the world needs your message. They need your knowledge. They need your talents. There's so much fear and uncertainty right now. Maybe you feel it too. And when there's fear and uncertainty, what happens is that we start to become professional preparers, right? We're getting ready to get ready, and we don't take action. I love the word motivation. And when you break it apart, you can learn so much. The word motive means purpose or reason. And you have to have a reason or a purpose that's bigger than you. And for me, it's helping other people to succeed. And when I get really good at that, I'm able to provide for my family in a way that solves my other big purpose, and that is provide for my family. Well, the second part of that word is ation, which is another form of action, or to take act. So what is the purpose or motive that would cause you to take action? For me, strengthening your brand and learning how to communicate with power and influence to be able to make people's lives better. What better reason to take action than that? Now, we have a challenge today, is that we can't be face-to-face like we usually are. The virtual environment was great for a while, but now people are exhausted of virtual meetings. They have Zoom fatigue. And within seconds, people will either listen to you or turn off and decide, am I going to check my emails while they talk, or am I going to be engaged? And even if you're providing professional development units or PDUs for people to come, instantly they're going to decide if they're going to be listening or turning off their camera or whatever. You have the opportunity to grab them, to change their lives. My hope today is that I will motivate you to go out and motivate others, to be able to share your ideas. People need you. They need your talents. They need your thoughts. They need your leadership. They need your service. They need your power. They need your influence. They need your voice. Thank you so much for giving me your evening, your afternoon. It's such an honor to be able to have worked with you this year and in the years past. I look at this as a great honor and a great privilege to be with you wonderful people. Thank you so much. I turn it back to you, Linda.